Well, it's that time again, that time when we walk into the virtual bar and talk to all those who have ever been camping and heard a crackling in the woods. Pull up a chair. Let's chat. We're your hosts, Chris, Ken, and Greg. This is Three Pastors Walk Into a Bar.
We should be three pastors walk into the forest.
Why?
I don't know. We can have a beer there, too.
Well, you can, but then you got to
Pull
carry
up a log.
Pull up a log.
I didn't bring my camp chair. That ain't camping.
No, you got to have a log if you're camping, right?
That's right. That's right.
Why does it have to be camping? Why is it that when you have a conversation about Bigfoot, people automatically assume you're talking about camping?
Because there haven't been that many sightings at Sears or JCPenney.
Most of them happen in people's backyards.
Most of them?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
You going to tell us about the Pop-Tart?
What, about the Pop-Tart? No.
Yeah.
No.
Well, the listeners are now going,
I keep that all to myself.
That's secret.
What about the Pop-Tart? Tell us about the Pop-Tart.
Keeping that all.
We're not going to tell you about the Pop-Tart.
Nope, no Pop-Tart.
I'll be in my office this afternoon if you want to know about the
Cryptid.
Pop-Tart.
All right, so we'll share the Pop-Tart with you. So we were getting ready this morning, and as we were getting the show ready and Gavin was trying to get everything set up, I just, out of curiosity, pulled up iTunes and was like, I wonder how many Sasquatch songs there are out there. You know, just as a random thought.
This is your pastor.
Yeah.
Deep in study.
Yeah. I was
Research.
Just like, yeah.
That is random.
We were just like, and I was just like, okay, how many are there? And so I found quite a few, actually. This is one of them by Luke Amalong. I don't know how you pronounce that. It's like crapo. And this is called the Sasquatch song, so enjoy. Now, oddly enough, I don't know if this says anything about the culture or whatever, but oddly enough, most songs about Sasquatch end up being of the country music vein.
Yes. Can't imagine why.
See? There you go.
There it is. He was eating a Pop-Tart in my
Not
backyard.
a lot of people know this, but scientifically speaking, Pop-Tarts are one of Sasquatch's main food supplies.
Yeah.
They get them from the Jiffy Mart.
Yeah, you'd think you'd see more sightings in, Jiffy Mart.
In Super One.
Circle K.
I'm pretty sure I've seen a few at Super One.
Yeah. Definitely. And some of the Walmart videos, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Come across a few Sasquatches.
If you guys didn't know it already, we are talking about cryptids today. What is a cryptid, you might ask?
Cryptid currency?
Yeah, cryptocurrency. Doji monsters. No, a cryptid is a branch of study that researches cryptids. It's called cryptozoology.
And cryptids
are creatures that are rumored to exist.
But science denies.
Not necessarily.
Most of science. Much of science. I read that.
I don't think you'll find a scientist that denies the existence of them.
No.
Yeah.
They just don't have the proof.
You just don't have the proof.
The
and I
case
think
is open.
Yeah, I think that's an important distinction because just because you don't have evidence of something doesn't mean it doesn't exist. If we worked in that assumption, we wouldn't be Christians.
Well, and you would think that science would look at creation in the same light.
Well, they do.
Some do.
They do, I
Yeah,
think.
some do.
I don't think it's that easy. I mean, you talk about. I mean, we could definitely talk about creation and evolution from a lost person's perspective. I don't think it's that easy, because I'll give you one example of that, and we're going to get off on a tangent here, but I think it's fun to get off on. I think geology is a great example of that, because you can physically watch the process of erosion in, say, like the Grand Canyon, right? Or like on rock surfaces, like sandstone, whatever. You could physically watch that.
Yeah.
And you can see the process of erosion with your own eyes. Watch it. And you can calculate the time that it takes in order for that to erode to that point, based on your own observations, right? So it does throw in a strange quandary of time and tension, and how geology looks. And so it throws Christians into a weird place where they either have to state that God created the world with age built into it, or that there is age that is not calculated. Because if you believe in a young earth, then you have to assume that God created some areas of the earth to look older than others, based on what you can physically observe.
Like the Grand Canyon.
Grand Canyon is a great example of that. Yeah, it's a great example of that physical observation.
But a large amount of water rushing through a canyon like that, being created by that large amount of water, could easily step outside what we observe today.
Yeah, you're assuming that it and that large volume of water just happened to select that one particular spot in the middle of the desert to do that.
No, the whole earth.
Yeah, but you don't see any other Grand Canyons in that area, do you?
Not recently.
Yeah.
No.
So that's exactly my point.
And that's my point.
Yeah, you don't see them recently because it doesn't happen recently. It happens over the course of a long period of time. Now, if you believe that God created the earth in 7 days, which is totally reasonable, based on our beliefs and Scripture, then you can assume that when God created a mountain, He created it to appear as if it had been there for a long time. That's a perfectly reasonable assumption. But
likewise with the Grand Canyon.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't make sense to create a creation that looked outside of the normality of the nature that you were creating. That wouldn't make sense. Yeah, so it makes sense that He would create a creation that looked normal in the process of natural erosion that He created in and of Himself. Just like, I want it to be, this old or whatever, But I think it's hard for people to understand what exactly happens with creation. And I think we get in a hang up with that argument as well. I think that people get really kind of bent out of shape over the whole idea of creation. It has to be
Agreed.
It has to be 7 literal days, and it has to be the fact that people are wrong about geology, and that it can happen way faster, and that we're going to just continue to look for evidence of this. And you spend decades trying to argue about the fact that the Grand Canyon is, 6,000 years old or 6 million years old. Meanwhile, the entire time that you're arguing about whether the Grand Canyon is 6 million years old or 6,000 years old, nobody's getting saved.
No. Yeah.
Yeah.
Say another
And we're
person
just
died.
sitting there
and went to
arguing about how old a hole in the ground is. And God's just probably up there going, guys, that's not the point. It's not the point.
hell. The Pangea situation has always cracked me up. Till one guy said, yeah, I mean, just look at that. They fit together like a puzzle. At one point, they were all touching. And this guy goes, they're still all touching.
Yep.
It's not like their continents floating around,
Well, I mean, they kind of are floating around on the mantle of the earth.
Yeah.
I mean, we know that to be certain.
Yeah.
I saw Lost.
I did
That
too.
proves it, right?
Yeah.
Right there, huh?
Yeah, you can just
Proof.
They can zap around the earth.
Isn't it nice to have something like Hollywood that can teach us about reality?
Yeah. I don't think anybody in Hollywood actually knows
Light
what happens in
science.
Lost. that show was bonkers crazy.
That was awesome.
Never seen it.
Anyways, we're not talking about that today. We're talking about Bigfoot, Yeti, and the Loch Ness Monster.
Did they have any of those in Lost? Any monsters?
They had a monster.
They had a monster?
Yeah, they did have a monster.
Okay. Was it normal?
It was a giant cloud. A giant dark cloud.
Okay.
It was terrifying. Yeah. It would fly around and it would like beat people up and kill people. It was crazy. Yeah, that thing was crazy.
A cloud.
Yeah. That's not the weirdest monster people have ever come up with.
There were spiritual underpinnings to all of that too.
Oh,
So
yeah.
it is an interesting watch.
Okay.
There was some deep philosophical ideology in there for sure.
Maybe on my deathbed I'll turn on the
I'll tell you what,
TV.
the first two seasons were interesting, and then after that, it just got
different writers.
It just got
and ruined
weird,
it.
and it just got weird and dumb and hard to follow, and yeah, it just got kind of ridiculous.
And the ending was the worst.
Also, never take Greg's advice on what to watch and don't watch,
unless you have a civil mind.
Unless you like really cheesy movies about extreme sports. What was that one video that you showed me that one time?
Sports.
You let me borrow. What was it? It had the kid from Peter Pan, Rufio. What was the name of that?
Extreme Days.
Extreme Days.
There's people out there that, that's in their top 3.
Coming to a theater near you.
Yeah.
Extreme Days.
And it did. Extreme Days.
Gather around.
Gavin,
watch everyone be extreme.
Did you enjoy that, or were you tainted by your dad's thoughts?
It never even got off the shelf.
Heck no. You guys never watched it.
No.
There it is right there. We never watched it.
No, we didn't watch it. It was
And you're
terrible looking.
dissing on it, and you've never
looking.
watched it?
Yeah.
Oh, man. The scene with the spoons in the restaurant. Oh, man. You guys missed it.
It's weird how we can not see something and then be very critical of it.
Like this?
Kind of like Lost.
Like a lot of
Kind of like Lost?
Yeah.
Kind of like Extreme Days? Kind of like Sasquatch?
Did you see what I did there?
I did. Yeah, that was a nice segue into wherever we're going.
So let's see. First off, I want to state, because one of the questions we've been asking here is if you believe in Jesus, can you also believe in the paranormal? And are there scriptures in the Bible that support or refute these things? So we're going to explore those answers and answer some of these questions today. First of all, Bigfoot is not what we would term as paranormal.
All right.
He is more cryptozoological, more like urban legend, as opposed to like telekinesis or something that we see happening that we cannot explain outside of the realms of normal science. So I don't think that anybody out there that is a believer in Sasquatch that is pursuing it, or any scientist that's actually pursuing it, which there are some out there, that they would state that this is something that's outside of the realms of normal science. Like they would say, this is a creature. If it exists, it's a creature. And if we find it, we will be able to determine that it's a creature, and we will be able to classify it.
As is said in most movies, they'll kill it and cut it up.
Well, that's, pretty much. Pretty much. That's what's going to happen. Yep. I'm sorry for all you guys out there that don't want to see that happen. But
inquiring minds want to know.
As soon as they find one, they're going to cut that sucker up.
Oh, yeah.
Quick as possible. Get some DNA, dissect it.
Yep. Yeah. Maybe barbecue some of it.
They don't even care how much it's crying. They'll just dissect that puppy right up. Hopefully
it'll be dead.
Yeah, I was going to say, hopefully they'll put it to sleep first.
Hey, we caught it alive. Let's cut it up.
There is a disclaimer on these shows. Some scriptures below are intentionally taken out of context. So, just so you know,
that's what people do
for conversation's sake.
Oh man! So, according to UC Berkeley, which is where I get all my trusted news, 16% of Americans believe in Bigfoot.
That's a lot.
It's weird that it's 16 and not 15 or 17.
Yeah. 16 is a lot. I'm surprised. I'm actually surprised by these numbers and how low they are. Like with the UFO, and I'm surprised that only like half the population believe that they exist.
Well, you got to look at whether or not they made phone calls or if they just, talked to the people on campus. That
Yeah, maybe.
it should have been 80 probably at Berkeley.
I think Berkeley's not a hippie school anymore, so they're probably not hanging out in the woods a lot anymore. Probably.
Potentially.
Yeah.
What is Berkeley anyway?
It's in California.
I know, not where, but what is it? That is it still this liberal?
It is
thingy out there.
It's still way
never
liberal.
changed.
Yeah, it's still way liberal. It's just less hippie and artsy now, and more
Cryptid,
gender identity applicable.
Oh.
Yeah.
That.
Yeah, they're really into that whole deal. Inclusivity and social justice, and all that
I know a lot
stuff.
of the freedom of speech stuff happens at Berkeley.
There was a FBI study. There was a 4-decade-old file on the Bigfoot inquiry based on hair and tissue samples, and they concluded that it was from the deer family. Now,
John Deere?
I think that this is part of the issue with the whole Bigfoot debate, is that there is so many people trying to get rich off of it, and so many people doing a really poor job of trying to hoax it, that when you talk about the subject of Sasquatch, people immediately go to the they don't even give it a fair shake. It's automatically, it doesn't exist, it's stupid, and if you believe in it, you're a moron. Pretty much is kind of the direction that it goes. It's like, if this is obviously not true because it's we've seen where people have hoaxed it, and the FBI did this thing, and it's like you never really hear anybody talk about, unless they are a person that has like a desire to believe in Bigfoot. You don't really hear them talk about, like, well, let's see what evidence is out there. Let's see what we actually have.
Mm-hmm.
It's always, well, this is what we don't have, and this is what we, dismiss. Like, it's like one of the things that people always say is like, well, why do we never see the remains of them?
Right.
Why do we never see the remains? Well, let me ask you a question. When was the last time that you saw the remains of a mountain lion?
Tuesday?
Yeah, right. I would be willing to say that there's probably not a person in our listening audience or in the surrounding area that's seen the remains of a mountain lion.
And I know why that is, because Bigfoot eats it.
Either that or predators eat it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that
that's what I meant.
Yeah, I think that people are very dismissive of the idea, and we've been trained to be dismissive of the idea. It's kind of like the whole UFO phenomenon. It's like you talk with certain people about UFOs, and it's like, oh yeah, extraterrestrial life, it's possible. It's like, but then somehow, like, you start talking about Bigfoot, and there's like a switch flipped. People that were on board with the idea of angelic beings traveling through planes of existence, and people who are on board with, the idea that angels and demonic entities could be manifesting themselves to simulate familiar spirits.
That's me. Yeah.
All of a sudden, that same group of people, and that's not necessarily meaning that you represent that group of people, but
I was trying to.
But what it does, there's some switch that gets flipped when you start talking about Bigfoot or Sasquatch.
Well, that's because it doesn't exist.
Or skunk ape, or whatever.
You're crazy if you believe in Bigfoot.
Exactly.
Sasquatch, on the other hand.
So it's like, what's the point in talking about it, right?
It's
fun. Oh, it's dumb, and you're stupid, and we dismiss it completely and entirely. So what's the point?
You want me to start off with my Sasquatch story?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
You don't have one.
I do.
No,
I do. It's not mine. I took it from somebody.
Oh, yeah.
Good friend up in the mountains, Southern California. I think it was Boy Scouts. And everybody's out on a hike but him. He had KP, and he was washing the dishes in the pan, and he looked up on the hillside, and he said a large brown figure stepped out from behind a tree. And he stopped, and he looked at it and stared at it for a minute and went back behind the tree, and he was freaking out. He was like, man, there's nobody around here. I'm here all alone in the camp. And he watched it for quite some time and never saw it again.
Interesting.
Never saw it leave, never saw any of that. So,
yeah.
no reason not to believe him.
Yeah. obviously
He was a Boy Scout.
Obviously,
after
a
all.
guy in a gorilla suit just randomly out there trying to pull off a hoax.
Right. Yeah. Stepping out and freaking some kid out and then disappearing.
Yeah. What do you think, Ken? Do you have any experiences?
No, I can't say as I have. I mean, I would feel safer in the woods than afraid.
Yeah.
The things to be afraid of are out here with the rest of the crazy people.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah. Although, I don't know if we'll get to it today, but I did a little bit further research on our own local cryptid. You know we have a local cryptid, right?
Over in Washington, the lake.
Isn't it over at Priest Lake?
It's not Priest Lake. It's
Ponderay.
Oh, Ponderay. We've got one in Ponderay.
Oh, we got
That's right.
We got a sea monster in Ponderay.
The Ponderay paddler.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Laugh not. It is serious. So serious that a North Idaho College teacher embarked on a research project in 1985 to accumulate all of the evidence for the Ponderay paddler.
I'll be darned.
And it's the biggest body of evidence that it exists yet. And
So what are they saying that it is?
They got photos?
photographs that are hard to refute, they say. I don't know. I looked at it and it's like I didn't see it.
Yeah.
See what they
Just-
saw.
Just a log floating in the
Well,
water.
you could obviously see. I mean, there was so this is a kind of a high angle view down on the lake, and you can see what we call standing waves, which happen in that lake already, and they're kind of weird because it looks like the phenomenon of something swimming through the water.
Yeah, it's like, what is that?
But you can kind of see one of those off in the distance, and then you see this V-shaped wave like a boat would make, right? Something's swimming on top of the water, undulating through the water. You see that, and then you see one that makes a kind of a sharp right angle curve. There you go. You got it. And so if you look in the lower right-hand corner of that photo, that's what they're saying is about a 20-foot long creature passing through the water.
Oh, like right here?
Yeah. If you enlarge it, you'll see more of the picture, and you'll see the whole thing.
Is it I can't see the picture, so is it a Loch Ness type thing?
Yeah.
It's something.
But what they don't
Serpent?
explain is what are the other two big dark dots, because those have got
that's a pontoon boat, and that's a
fishing
sailboat.
boats. Yeah. So I don't believe that if there was a creature in the lake that it would be up there swimming around boats, you know.
Yeah, that seems
Out in the open. So
That seems highly unlikely. Although, I mean, if you
Why not?
well, like here's the thing that I was just thinking about right here, right?
plesiosaurus. No,
Well,
that's
no,
a,
this is a
that's a whale shark.
yeah, right. So, I mean, there's many instances where I mean, I've been out on a boat and like a dolphin come up to the boat and just hang out just out of curiosity, you know, or whatever. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I suppose that it is weird that a creature would come out and swim around like with other people around. But then again, I mean, it's not really that weird. I mean, if it's a creature of any kind of semi-intelligence at all, it's going to have some curiosity. And, you know,
like,
I mean,
manatees and
manatees are notorious for that. Yeah.
sea elephants. I mean, if you wanted to pick a prehistoric creature, there's one.
Yeah. I mean, manatees for sure. I mean, they're so bad that they get hit by boats all the time, you know? And so, you know, I mean, I guess I could see that. I mean,
What's weird with this, though, is if you listen to the episode that you see up there,
this one here,
they're really trying to tie it to the Navy, because the Navy does, you know, top secret submarine
brother.
research there, and they're trying to say that, you know, the Navy's
created
really
it.
doing something there that they don't want to divulge, or that they created the myth to help cloak their own secret programs. And
I mean,
yeah, so
I see that. Yeah, I mean, that makes sense to me. I don't know that they would need to do that. I can't imagine a need for that. But, yeah, I mean, it kind of makes sense. I've never seen the paddler, right? I've never seen anything like that. I have had a weird, what I call a Bigfoot experience, though. And my experience was late at night. It was between 2 and 3 o'clock. I mean, I always say it's 2:30, but I don't know exactly when because I was dead asleep. And our power went off in our room, the breaker flipped because we had a heater going. And so I got my boots on, and I'm walking out in the snow, and I got my boots on, my boxer shorts, and my T-shirt, and I'm going out there freezing my bunions off. And I go out there and I go to flip the breaker. And when I flip the breaker on my property, on the far corner of my property, I hear 3 distinctly spaced, evenly spaced knocks on a tree. Just whack, whack, whack. And it threw me off because it's like, this 2:30 in the morning, like the hair on the back of my neck stood up because I'm thinking to myself, there is a person on my property banging stuff around. And then it happened again, like just a couple of seconds later. It's like 3 distinct knocks, whack, whack, whack. And if you had been in my shoes, you would know that it sounded like somebody was taking a 2x4 and smacking it against a tree 3 times in succession, twice in a row. And it was rhythmic. It wasn't like it was like random, like, like an elk would go up to a tree and like, scrape on it or something. It wasn't even close to that. Like, that's what my wife always said, because she doesn't want to believe that Bigfoot exists. She just,
or the neighbors are sneaking over and beating 2x4s on the tree.
She would rather believe that that our neighbors came over and were building a tree house at 2:30 in the morning on our property than believe that. And Gavin, can you go unplug the headphones over there? My headphones are cutting out. Or can you unplug that red cable right there, please? I don't know what it is, but when that cable is plugged in, it takes my headphones out. No, they're going out completely.
Not my fault.
Maybe your foot's on the, I don't know what it is. Anyways, she would rather believe that there's some dude out there, some homeless guy, which is bonkers to me. It's like, you would rather believe that there's some homeless dude out there banging on our trees than believe in Sasquatch.
So it couldn't have been neighbors chopping firewood late at night.
Yes. 2:30 in the morning on my property.
And here's the kicker.
Sound travels, right? In the night.
They went to the CDA press saying they saw a sighting of Sasquatch in boots and boxer shorts.
Yeah, right.
Playing with breakers over at the neighbor's house.
Yeah, I would go for that. That would make sense to me that it was my neighbors, but it was snowing. The trees were covered with snow, and the sound doesn't travel when the trees are covered with snow. It was definitely, very definitely on the corner of my property, which wouldn't have been more than 400 yards away. And it was very obvious, and it was very
400 yards or feet.
Oh, it would have been maybe no. It wouldn't have. It would have been. It would have been more than 400 feet.
Okay.
But I'm on 10 acres square, so I guess it could have been 200 yards maybe. But anyways, it was on the corner. It was on the corner of my property. It wasn't that far away, but it was far enough away that I couldn't see what was going on. It was pitch black, anyways. Yeah, that I.
When was this?
This was. I have no idea. 10 years ago.
Okay, so you soon after you moved in.
Yeah, maybe 3 years. 3 years after we moved in. Yeah. I mean, we were well established. We were fine. And up to that point, I've spent a lot of time in the woods. In all of the things that I do, most of that was spent in the woods. And I've never had an experience with Bigfoot, nor was I a believer in Bigfoot. I just was like, it just seemed silly to me, until that moment. At that moment, I began to realize that there is a possibility. I mean, there's something that is impossible, and then there's something that is plausible. And it is plausible that you have a large creature that lives in the wilderness that has a minority of numbers, that exists in such a way that it encounters briefly humankind, but we have never been able to find evidence of it because it's not come into contact with mankind yet. I mean, it's very possible. If you've gone out hunting before, you've gone up to, like, say, for instance, like if you go out to Lake Elsie and you go up to the top of the mountain and you just like spin around and look.
It's a lot of space out there.
Thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of acres of land some of which no person has ever put a foot on. I mean, it's plausible.
Yeah.
That something's out there that we don't know.
You're a believer.
I mean, I wouldn't say I'm a believer. I would say that
You're agnostic.
I'm open to the fact that it could be found one day. I'm open to that fact.
Yeah. You certainly don't want to be the scoffer and then they find one and have people say, I told you so.
Yeah,
I don't know. I'm agnostic.
on
that.
I don't think any of us would see one if there was one. It's just been too much time passed by. But if there was one, I would suspect it would be like in the middle of the deepest, darkest parts of Canada.
Yeah.
Where people haven't been for decades.
Well, I don't know. Just like Chris says. I mean, here
popping out at
North
the campground
Idaho,
in Southern California.
Yeah. Have you been to the woods in Southern California? It's like this. There's mountains there that people don't go into. You know, I mean, it's vast.
Too many people.
It's vast.
No, I think that if you've ever taken a plane ride over to like Denver, say for instance, and just look down, most of your flight is over forest that has never been touched.
Without roads.
I mean, the idea that we're overpopulated is nonsensical because it's like there is a lot of land, people.
Only people who've never been out to the west would say that.
Yeah. I mean, there's just large, massive tracts of land that people have never even entertained the idea of being in.
We were watching a show the other day about trees, the monster trees, giant trees throughout the world. And it was interesting because they found one in Northern California that is the biggest, what's general term, cedar tree, I think it is.
Big cedar.
And there's no trails. Somebody in a helicopter or something found it, and then they sent a crew out there, and they said, yeah, this is the biggest one ever until we find the next one.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how vast it is.
Yeah. Until you find, I mean, to think that there's no such thing as like a Loch Ness monster or a sea monster, or like, take for instance a giant squid.
Yeah,
that was a cryptid until like 5 years ago when they actually caught it on video.
Japanese trawler.
I mean, people were like, "Oh no, that's nonsense. It doesn't actually exist. Those are fake footage, fake videos, and all that kind of." Well, now the scientific community is like, "Nope, there's an actual giant squid." And so now all the pictures that we have of sperm whales with bites taken out of the side of them from four pincers coming in like that, it's like, oh, well,
I guess
that's the reason. Yeah. But I mean, like when you've explored like only like 10% of the ocean, why would you be surprised that things exist that you don't know?
Yeah. Every time you see one of the new documentaries on the deepest parts of the sea, and they come up with these weird, strange animals that are down there where it's pitch black and hot water is coming out of the bottom of the ocean,
just spewing out, and there's all these creatures
living around it, that would boil the skin off your hand. It's like, what?
You know what I hear every time I watch one of those submarine videos is like, this is something we've never seen before. That's like the common phrase in all of those videos. Yeah. It's like they always say it. Like they're like coming up and they got like this bucket with this jellyfish in it. And they're like, we've never seen this species of jellyfish before. Yeah. There ain't no telling what's down there, dude.
Yeah, I mean, it's freaky.
You're gonna release megalodon at some point.
What?
Godzilla's gonna come creeping out of there.
Yeah, here's another one. 129 years of Flathead Lake monster sightings.
Yeah.
In Montana.
Yeah.
It's like they're out there everywhere you go.
Priest Lake is really famous for having Sasquatch sightings.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That would be a good spot. Yeah, Priest is another area where there's a lot of wilderness.
A lot of wilderness up there, all the way around that lake. Just lots of wilderness, and there's a lot of people that travel up into that wilderness. So it wouldn't surprise me that there were encounters.
On one of our hunting trips, I'll never forget this. I was down in this canyon. I had walked a couple of miles and I was just standing around. It was absolutely gorgeous. And I was just looking at the trees, and there was a little lake going, or a little creek going through there. And I thought, wow, I'll bet no one has ever been here before. And I looked down and I saw a Milky Way wrapper and a cigarette butt. So he's standing right where I was.
Well, Yeah, the cigarette butt for sure. Yeah, I was gonna say that. Having garbage everywhere doesn't necessarily mean somebody's been there. But yeah, the cigarette butt. That was like somebody
dang
dropped that there. Way to go, idiot! Dropping your cigarette butt in the woods.
Right. Ruined my experience.
Yeah, way to go. Good thing you didn't catch the forest on fire.
Yes,
you moron. So this is a topic of hot debate, though, among people. Bigfoot or Sasquatch. He's rumored to be a giant ape-like creature that roams North America. He's a cryptid, just like Chupacabra. I'm surprised you didn't know about Chupacabra.
Chupacabra? I know about Chewbacca.
Yeah, but you didn't know about Chupacabra, which is weird to me because you're from Southern California, which is where a lot of Chupacabra sightings come from.
Which makes life weird.
Yeah, it does. Life is weird, for sure.
Chupacabra.
Like, it wouldn't surprise me if you didn't know about the Loch Ness Monster because you don't live by a loch. So, do you think the Pend Oreille Paddler is a Loch Ness Monster?
Oh. Well, if it's there, yes. If it's not, no.
What if it's just a giant prehistoric trout?
Or a sturgeon.
Or a sturgeon.
I mean, if you've ever seen a big sturgeon.
Oh, yeah.
They're terrifying.
They're
prehistoric.
Yeah.
They
could be
pretty
crazy looking. Like we went on a jet boat tour in Hell's Canyon, and a guy caught a sturgeon out of that lake, and they pulled it up next to the boat, and that thing was as long as the boat.
Yeah.
It was huge.
Yeah, they're amazing.
Terrifying creature.
Yeah. And I understand you can only take them, over 3 feet and under 10 feet or something like that?
I don't think you can take any of them out of Hell's Canyon. They're all catch and release.
Are they?
Yeah, it's all catch and release. Okay. Which was weird to me because we just got done watching this guy reel in this giant prehistoric looking bony fish. And then we go down a little bit and people are jumping into the river just playing and having a good time. Like,
do you know there's monsters?
I'm just thinking to myself, guys, there's like probably a 10-foot sturgeon swimming around your feet, could consume you with one swallow. You'd be like Jonah.
What do they eat?
People. Tourists. They eat tourists.
Especially those on boats.
Milky Way bars and Pop-Tarts.
Let's see. Most of them, most Bigfoot sightings occur in the Northwest, although in the South we have one too. He's called the skunk ape.
Skunk ape.
Yep.
Indicative of the smell that he leaves behind?
Yeah, apparently there's a severe odor that he brings with him. Now, I've smelled skunks before. And like I said, I'm from the Panhandle of Florida. I spent a lot of time in the woods in the Panhandle of Florida. And I've never had any experiences with anything like that before at all. But also, that being said, I've spent a lot of time in the woods, and I've never had an experience with a Florida panther. I've never ran across like a live diamondback rattlesnake. So it's not unreasonable to think that you could spend a lot of time in the woods and not run into an apex predator. They probably see you, but you may never see them. So
that's why they're so good.
That doesn't really surprise me that there aren't as many like valid. Here's the one thing that always makes me doubt, though. Why can't anyone get a good picture of them?
That's the interesting part.
It just really irritates me because I know that there was something on my property. Whether it was a dude chopping wood on my property in the middle of the night at 2:30 in the morning, or whether it was a Sasquatch, but there's something that makes me think there's something to this. But for heaven's sake, why can't anybody just take a decent picture of this guy?
There are a lot of wildlife photographers who spend enormous time out in the wilderness waiting for some wildlife event to take place so that they can take pictures of it. You'd think that they would have seen at least a basic sighting, and they've got the camera out, and it's like, shoot it.
Yeah.
And, some of those photos are amazing, where you see like 2 bull elk locked up.
Yeah.
And you don't see that often. Or there's that one photo of 2 bull elk fighting or no, they're not fighting. It's a bull who's shedding his antler, and the antler is in midair.
Oh, sweet.
He snapped a picture as he was shaking that off, and it was in midair. It's like, wow.
Some of those guys are crazy. Like if you've ever watched any of or if you've ever seen any pictures of the wildlife photographers, and like they're laying on the ground with their camera set up, and there's like animals crawling on them because they've been like such a piece of the terrain for so long. The animals were like, hey, they belong there.
Yeah, they got their ghillie suit.
Yeah.
Just like, what in the world? You know what blows me away is people who do oceanic research. The ocean terrifies me.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like everything about the ocean terrifies me. Like it is unnerving to me, like being on a boat and knowing that there is literally hundreds of feet of water underneath me with any myriad of creatures swimming around in it at any given time.
That would eat you.
That could possibly eat you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Intentionally or unintentionally.
That's freaky.
Does nobody else get freaked out by that? I mean, it terrifies me.
Well, so try not to think about it, you know? That is a scary thing. I mean,
I've gone swimming out in the middle of Pend Oreille, right? We sail. So you get out there, and it's a really hot day, jump in the water. You just think, wow, there's 1,000 feet of water underneath me right now. And you go down just a few hundred feet, and it's so dark you wouldn't be able to see your hand in front of your face.
Yeah.
And you could just
imagine 1,000 feet.
Slip down in there.
Pitch black. You know, I born and raised in Southern California, swam in the ocean, surfed, did all that stuff. And the ocean never had that much of a fear factor for me. But one day I got stung by a jellyfish. Yeah. And since then, I have been a little bit leery of going in the ocean, into the deeper ocean.
Yeah.
You know, sitting there on your board with your legs hanging down, you know, and, you know, your bait. And then you see all the movies where these shark attacks, and then what do? You see the camera coming up underneath the surfer with their legs hanging down off the
either
board,
that or you see the
arm.
image of the like deep blue sea and there's nothing there, and then all of a sudden it's like this vague figure begins to form. It's this giant mouth coming up, you know.
Jaw.
It's like
they're good. They know what terrifies.
Oh yeah,
people.
they do. They know. I grew up in Florida, so I spent a lot of time on boats out in the middle of the ocean, fishing or jumping off and swimming in the ocean. And like when I was young and you're invincible, you know, you don't think about that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
The one time that changed it for me, I think, was we were out on a point across from Fort McRae, and we were doing bottle rocket wars. We had all of our PVC guns, and we were shooting bottle rockets and you know, all that kind of stuff. Not that you should do that, kids. Don't do that.
Don't do it at home. Do it at the beach.
But anyways, the Marine Patrol showed up. And they were gonna, I don't think they were gonna arrest us. They're probably just gonna run us off. But we freaked out, and we didn't have anywhere else to go, so we ran into the water, and settled down into the water, like up to our like nose, and we're just watching the Marine Patrol up there looking for us. And it's in the middle of the night, in the Gulf, sitting in water, waves kind of rolling over us. And that's, from behind me, all I could think about was there is a bull shark going to come and eat me in half. He's going to bite me in half. And it didn't help that there was all kinds of little fish kind of nipping at you and kind of like swimming around you and stuff, you know. And so it's like
seaweed tickling you.
Yeah, and after that, it was like, nope, I'm done with the ocean. Yep, the ocean's done with me. We're parting ways.
Honey, let's put in a pool.
I mean, I still go swimming, but the idea of having lots of water underneath me, simply because, I mean, I don't know what's under there.
That's right.
It's like,
fear of the unknown.
Yeah, and I think the woods are like that for a lot of people. We talked, I think it was last time we talked about how Joel was
doesn't like
scared
the dark.
of the woods, the dark woods. Yeah,
runs from his car to the house at night.
And it's because it's terrifying, and there's things out there that you can't see. And the thing about the woods at night is that if you have a campfire going, it makes it better, but you can only see like 20 feet. I mean, once you get past that firelight, it's pitch black. And if you've ever gone out into the woods in the middle of the night on a normal night, not like a full moon night, but on a normal night, and just flip your flashlight off and just stand there. Yeah. Just stand there for like a minute. And you're going to think to yourself, oh, well, man, it's been a minute, right? You're going to look at your watch and it's going to be like 15 seconds because time just slows down.
Yeah, I love it in the movies when they're in a very dark tunnel or someplace. And where do they have their lantern? They hold it up right in front of their face.
Yeah, like you can
like
see
they're
anything.
looking at something. Dude, you're blind at that point.
Yeah,
you can see the lantern and that's it.
Yeah, that's all you can see. Yeah, like what? Where would you put it? You put it over your head, right?
Over like, or just or way down low. Yeah,
that would make sense.
Illuminate,
to me. Or get a headlamp.
Get a flashlight.
Get a
headlamp. Yeah. There you go.
So yeah, well, I don't know what we determined there, but there's a lot of stuff.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's kind of a diversion, but
the ocean is deep and scary.
Yeah. Sasquatch comes from a Native American term from the Salish First Nations of the people of southwestern British Columbia. And it means wild man or hairy man. So this is something that's been happening. It's not like a recent phenomenon. I mean, we have legends of the hairy man going back to ancient Indian.
Yeah, like I just read about the
civilizations.
Monster there in Flathead Lake. 129 years, of sightings. So it started back when the people started coming west.
Yeah. Well, I think that the whole idea of the native peoples actually thinking that there's something there as well is compelling because that, to me, that kind of gives credence to it a little bit because if they're saying that something's out there, then there potentially is something out there. They've spent quite a bit of time in the woods,
all
living,
their time,
living
all their time.
So they may know,
they may have eaten one,
but. The thing is that
don't ignore that statement, Chris.
They may have eaten one.
Yeah. Think about it. I mean, if anybody had a chance to get one.
Why do all the cannibals have to be down in the Amazon?
Yeah. We can have our own
But
cannibals.
if you ate a Sasquatch, would it be cannibalism? I mean, no. You'd just be eating a monkey.
Man-like?
No.
Is it more man-like or monkey-like?
Monkeys are, I think he's probably more ape-like.
I don't know. You ever eaten an ape?
I mean, the size of a man.
I think
upright like a man.
I think that there's more of a potential of it being ape-like, even if it's gorilla-like, or even if it is more bipedal, because we do have prehistoric evidence of giant apes, 10 foot tall apes. We have the bones of those. Yeah. So I mean, to say that it could exist, I mean, possibly.
Nephilim. The Nephilim.
I don't think that the Sasquatch is a Nephilim. I think that they would probably not look like apes because they came from men. Yeah. So
that's a funny statement.
That would be a terrifying thought. It's like
people out there going, "What?"
You're like a lady and you're pregnant and you give birth to this like hairy creature. It's like, just kill me. Just kill me now. I don't know what this is. Just kill me now. There's obviously something wrong with me.
If it's more man-like than ape-like, would it have a soul?
Oh, I definitely not.
No?
I don't think so.
We don't need to save the
Sasquatches.
Sasquatches.
I don't think so.
Save the Sasquatch.
No, I do. I think that's where you kind of dive into the theological kind of question.
Right.
So you have to take it for what it is. I mean, it's a potential creature that may or may not exist. We don't know. We don't have the evidence to support either way. But that being said, it has to fit into the creation of God, which means that it has to be a creature that was created by God. And if it's a creature that was created by God, he's definitely not created in man's image. So if he's not created in man's image, then he does not have a soul. That's why I think he's probably just like some kind of ape, some kind of like big ape or something like that. Gotta be.
You big ape.
I mean, not like a big ape, like in the
King Kong.
Well, I mean, I was thinking more like some of the guys in our church. I mean, some of those guys are big apes.
Some of them are small too.
Some of them are just apes.
Some are just big apes.
Yeah.
We're not talking about you, by the way.
Yeah, no. If you're thinking that we're talking about you, we're definitely not.
No. Yep.
No.
Do we still have that list?
No.
Those guys.
I selected some fun stuff to listen to here. So some of these are pretty funny. Where's the Sierra Sounds. Have you ever heard of this? This is the famous recording of the Sierra Sounds. So Ronald Moorhead is a researcher that I think he labels himself a researcher. But he said he took his camera out. Well, anyways, you're going to recognize some of the voices in this.
Sure. By the way, I have
video.
a little laptop here, and I do have some sounds on there that I use in my PowerPoint program. I don't know how they come through here, but we could try one if you want to.
Why don't you send them to me, and I will edit them in. And after the completion of our show, Ron was nice enough to send in those recordings.
So this is from Distinctly Montana website.
These are Ron's recordings of Bigfoot sounds in the wild.
We should just end the show right now.
No, I mean, it sounds silly to me right off the face. Like that one sounded like him sitting there making some kind of weird sounds. The ones that are weird to me are the ones where you can hear them talking in the audio, and then way off in the distance you hear something just like making weird, like audible sounds. Right? Those are kind of weird to me. It would bear out more investigation. Some of the ones that I have read, and a lot of the ones that have been analyzed, I was looking at I think it's a Life Sciences website. Anyways, they were talking about how the ones that they've recorded that they've legitimized, it's too far away to determine if it's a creature that we know about, but they also cannot determine that it's something that we don't know about, which just adds on to the mystery. It's like, okay, scientists, thank you for being so ambiguous, because now we just are left to wonder again. And now we're going to have more seasons of Bigfoot hunting on TV, right? Yeah. You know, so it's
good. More Harry and the Henderson movies.
You got to wonder if it's like not a conspiracy by the History Channel. Here's another one. This guy here was out mushroom hunting. No, this was a different group of people. Sorry. That was a baby.
A baby Sasquatch?
So you can hear how close the people are. That's way off in the distance, right? Now, I have never heard a bear do that. I've heard coyotes. I've heard wolves. I've never heard any of them do that before. And researchers, this is from the Guardian newspaper. Researchers were hesitant to say that it was an unidentified creature, but this was another one. They were like, our biologists say it could be a larger mammal, for example, a wolf. That's not a wolf. There's no way that's a wolf. But because it's a considerable distance from the recorder, there's no way to know for sure. That's the thing,
and
right?
That's one of those times when you're just not going to go chase it.
Yeah, that's kind of the thing.
Let's get closer.
Yeah, no way. Not even a little bit. Where's the one that I had? There was one. Oh, here's the funny one. This one is the Sierra Sounds, right? So this is the one I was thinking of to begin with.
first ones were very aggressive sounding,
So-
and you could.
Imagine you heard that out in the woods in the middle of the night.
Which part of that? I mean, that sounded like it was 2 tracks or something there.
Well, it was him out in the woods recording, and that's what he says that he heard way out in the woods. And there's like 3 different types of recordings, like of Sasquatches, apparently, right? So there's the moaning and the growling, and then there's what they call chattering, or like samurai chattering. Like they'll do this like kind of weird thing, or whatever. And this is the kind of stuff that makes you be like, oh, this is stupid. Come on. I mean, this
Change
is
the channel.
ridiculous, right? What was the other one? There was one. Where was that one that was? I want to find that one. Oh man, what happened to it? There was one that was the old In Search Of recording. You remember that show, In Search Of?
Mm-mm.
With Leonard Nimoy, remember? And it was he did all the like
Yeah, that sounds familiar.
strange things, like he was in search of Bigfoot, or in search of Loch Ness Monster, or in search of
Okay. Yeah.
I had that on here, but I can't find it now, unfortunately. I don't know what I did with it. It's got to be one of these. But here is one that was more recent, and this was shot by a guy who was out mushroom hunting. Okay, so this is pretty
horticulturalist is recording himself during a routine mushroom hunt in the woods of northern Illinois.
These look pretty big.
The footage, shot from his perspective, shows him calmly narrating as he walks through the forest, pointing his camera at various mushrooms scattered on trees and logs.
And this one looks like it has a bite out of it.
After pointing out what looks like a half-eaten mushroom, the man is startled by a strange and scary sound seemingly coming from nearby.
I am out of here.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I was
It's a
thinking.
long, drawn-out howl. It lasts about 9 seconds and certainly sounds like an animal of some kind. The mushroom hunter pans his camera back and forth to see if he can spot anything, but sees nothing.
I think it's time to go.
You think? You think? I mean, like I said, I've spent a lot of time in the woods. I've never heard anything like that in the woods.
No.
Never. Not even one time. So, yeah, I mean, maybe you believe, maybe you don't, maybe you have doubts, whatever the case may be. But there's enough out there that makes you go, I mean, maybe something's going on, I guess the bigger question here for us is not like, is it real or is it not real? Right. And the question that we're asking is it okay for a Christian to believe in such a thing? And I would say that we're not talking about like a demon, or we're not talking about like a ghost, or we're not talking about something paranormal. We're talking about a potential creature, and if you believe in that, it'd be no different than you believing in another creature that you've never seen before. It's like people believed in giant squid for the longest time. Nobody ever had any evidence of it. Nobody ever seen any carcasses. The pictures that they had looked kind of fraudulent, or whatever the case may be. I mean, why would it be biblically wrong to believe in something that potentially God created?
Shall I read this?
Yeah.
Genesis 1:24-25, and God said, "Let the earth bring forth living creatures according to their kinds, livestock and creeping things and beasts of the earth according to their kinds." And it was so. And God made the beasts of the earth according to their kinds, and the livestock according to their kinds, and everything that creeps on the ground according to its kinds. And God said, it was good.
It was good.
It was good.
I mean, yeah, it might be a little scary, but yeah, so are wolves. I tell you, one time we were out hunting. It was Robert and myself and my kids, or Gavin, and we were out in the 4-wheelers, and we were just driving around. This was up at Lake Elsie one time when we were up there, and we were driving around, and we got to this crossroads, and we looked down,
Yeah,
and
I remember that spot.
there was this giant wolf track. I mean, that thing was every bit of 8 inches, 9 inches across. I mean, this wolf track was massive. This wolf at the shoulders would have been as tall as me, or pretty darn near. You know what I mean? This animal was unbelievably massive. And just seeing that, the whole atmosphere of the wilderness changed. It was like,
Are we having fun yet?
It was like the light faded. You know, it was like everything got quiet. and Robert and I are just looking at each other. We're like, yeah, it's time to go. We're not hunting here, that's for sure. We'll be the hunter.
The first time you ever heard a elk bugle?
Oh, yeah.
In the wild?
That was good.
Oh, yeah.
Doesn't that
Yeah.
give you a different perspective?
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There-
Now I can sound like one.
Yeah, there are
a
some
while.
there are some videos out there as well that are like, oh, I heard a Sasquatch, and they record it, and then you listen, and it's obviously like an elk bugling or like a deer grunting
Moose.
or like a moose. You know, it's like if you've spent any time in the woods at all, you know these sounds, right? Like a cackling group of coyotes is a terrifying sound. It really is. But you know what it is, and so you don't really worry about it too much, right?
Yeah, that 9-second long howl was
crazy sounding, wasn't it?
I was getting ready to leave you guys here on your own. Huh?
I've never heard anything like that before. That was completely unique in my experiences in being out in the woods a long time.
So would you say it would be valid for mushroom hunters to start carrying ARs?
I think you should always go in the woods armed.
Yeah, seriously.
I don't think that
Folks.
there should ever be a moment where you go in the woods and you're not armed.
Yeah.
Because if you're not armed, you're not the apex predator out there. You're the prey.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean,
That's right.
if you don't have something to equalize out the odds, you're not going to win a wrestling match with a bear or a mountain lion. That's not going to happen. No. Yeah, you're not going to outrun a wolf. You know, these are, I mean, for heaven's sake, a pack of coyotes could take you down.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Like, people don't realize how dangerous a pack of coyotes can be. I mean, I've seen footage of them taking down full-size elk and moose. You know what I mean? You get together. I mean, they're but here's the thing, right? All that stuff is good. That's what God said. All that stuff is good.
It was good.
Yeah, it was really good until you guys ruined it.
Until Sasquatch.
Yeah.
If there is a Sasquatch, he was good, according to God.
He's created by God, you know. And I think if Christians want to believe that there's a Sasquatch, more power to you. I mean, you're not committing a sin by believing in him. I think you're much more in line with being in that realm of creating like a sinful attitude about it if you believe in like totemic magic, you know what I mean? But if you, and when I'd say I'm talking about like Native American beliefs, but I mean, if you're going to not believe in Sasquatch because the Indians believed in Sasquatch, then you're going to have to stop believing in Seahawks and bears and wolves and, all the other creatures of the world because they totemize those as well. So you can't just like throw things out just because you're uncomfortable with it. It's like, and I think that's the danger with a lot of this stuff is people just throwing it out because they're not comfortable with it. They don't want it to be true. So they just want to dismiss it.
Throw it out and stay out of the woods.
Yeah, I don't want to know about it. I don't care about it. I don't want to think about it. So therefore, it doesn't exist. And you're funny if you believe it exists. It's like, wow. I mean, I don't know if I believe or not. I mean, I haven't seen one, so I can't really say for certain. I've had experiences that make me feel like there's something going on.
Like just now with these recordings, that's like what.
That 9 second long one is kind of alarming.
Well, I remember the first time that I heard a grouse out in the woods, and I was like,
deep fluttering.
Yeah, and it's like somebody's trying to start their tractor, and they're having a really hard time.
Yeah, yeah, it does. Sounds like an old truck trying to start. Yeah.
Oh man, he almost got it going that time.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't think that people need to be freaking out about it.
No,
I think that that we can calm down. We can calm down.
Have some fun.
Well, do you have any last words, Greg? Give us some last words of wisdom.
I'm not dying.
Give us some last words of wisdom.
I told you I was
before
sick.
you gasp your last.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, could be out there. My biggest wall that I have to get over is proof. Show me a carcass. Show me, hair on a tree. Show me something that we go, that wasn't a bear that did that. That wasn't a human that did that. That was not a mountain lion. It was something else. And, where are these guys living? Do they have homes? Where are the babies? Just a ton of questions that come to my mind when I think about Sasquatch. But at the same time, I'm not saying no. I'm not saying that he's not out there.
Yeah.
Got a really good friend that's got a valid story that makes me go, And
that's kind of the thing too, is like when you have people in your life that that they have no reason to be making these things up.
Yeah.
It's there's no, they're not gaining anything from it. It doesn't give them, they're not seeking any kind of attention or, in fact, a lot of the times you have to kind of coax it out of these people to get it out of them because they're like, I don't really want to talk about it, So,
I was abducted by a Sasquatch.
Yeah, I don't discount human experience, I think is what I'm hearing you saying.
Yeah.
I'm in agreement with that. Yeah. It's like, don't discount human experience. It's the only analog we had for.
If we did, then people wouldn't
centuries
believe in Jesus, because we have our experience of Jesus, each one of us, and it's called our witness and our testimony.
And the only analog that we have for understanding that is what people saw and the words that were written. That's all we have.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
So, sometimes you just got to take things by faith, I guess. Because some people have faith in Sasquatch.
Yeah,
true.
They believe.
There it is.
But you, Ken, you have some final thoughts?
Well, I think, I suppose if I had to land on one side of the fence or the other, I'd say that there's a greater chance that there are cryptids in water than on land. But when a person becomes closed-minded and has the hubris to think that they understand everything, especially in God's kingdom, that's when you get into trouble. We get into trouble boxing God into a box or all sorts of things, and thinking that we understand the limits of their existence and why they're there. Then we get into trouble. The times that we really discover more is when we keep our minds open to the possibility of things that we don't understand.
Yeah.
And all our lives we learn and discover. And I think there's a lot more out there that we don't know about.
Yeah. I think people are going to be surprised when they get to heaven and they start learning about all the things that God did that we just never were intended to know about.
To the guy that made the recording that was out mushroom hunting, if he's a Christian, hey, you want to see what that was that made that sound?
Yeah. You could know one day.
Yeah.
You for sure know one day. Yeah, I'm in agreement. I think that we could, you could get yourself into a position to where you become very closed-minded about what God is capable of doing, and closed-minded in the scope of, we're going to say that God is only capable of the things that we know and understand. And what if God has proven anything in the subatomic realm? It's like you're never going to get to the end of what God's done. You can dive in and dive in and dive in and dive in, and that well is limitless.
And we are.
Yeah.
And every year we discover something smaller.
Yeah. Or the way they interact that we just can't explain, or the strangeness of how the universe works, and we're blown away by it. It's not a far stretch to say that particles react differently when you look at them and when you look away from them. They react differently.
Did you read that?
If that can be true, then certainly there can be a group of apes living in the Pacific Northwest in some remote region that come into very frequent contact with humankind. That's not even a far stretch of plausibility. That's absolutely plausible. So, and then as far as like what you were saying, like, yeah, I think you're right. I think there is a greater chance that they exist in the ocean. And I think that there's things in the ocean that one day some guy's going to be in a submarine and he's going to be down in the Marianas Trench and he's going to be looking around at little tiny jellyfish or whatever. And then this massive creature is going to swim right in front of him. He's going to crap his pants.
Yep.
Yep.
It's going to go dark all of a sudden.
It's only a matter of time before that happens, because I think there's things down there that are beyond the scope of imagination that we just haven't seen. And the chances of you seeing them would be slim to none.
And some we have seen. I mean, some of the videos and stuff from the deep ocean are just absolutely amazing.
Yeah. That giant squid video is just, it's bonkers.
And some of the fish, they're absolutely translucent.
What's that one with the angler fish?
Yeah, the angler fish.
Hanging
That's
off
another one.
Big giant teeth.
thought that was in cartoons only.
It's like,
it's a real thing.
It's just like God to say, here's the deep part of the earth that humans are going to discover at some point.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to make some of the most terrifying stuff ever, and I'm going to put it down here. Just to mess with him.
Just to humble him.
Just to mess with him a little bit,
And in the deep, dark ocean and lakes of the world, we usually don't have any sound.
Here's
So
a
it's all
thought.
sight.
Here's a parting thought for all you guys that live here in North Idaho. One of the untold stories of Lake Pend Oreille and its depths is the number of drowning victims that are still down there.
Oh, yeah.
Bobbing around in the bottom of the lake that you don't even know about. So next time you're in there swimming around, or you're taking a gulp of that Pend Oreille lake water as you're diving in, or you're catching that sturgeon, you're eating it, might want to think twice about that.
Yeah, we're going to leave them with that.
And we'll leave you with that.
Okay.
No, I think we'll leave you with this. Genesis 1:28. And God blessed them, and God said to them, be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth, and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the heavens, and over everything that moves on the earth. And then Nehemiah 9:6, you are the Lord, you alone. You have made heaven and heavens of heavens with all their hosts, the earth and all that is on it, and the seas and all that is in them. And you preserve all of them, and the host of heaven worships you.
Amen.
So that does it for us today. As always, thank you for joining us. If you have an idea for an episode that you would like to hear us investigate, or a guest that you'd like to hear us interview, send us an email at 3p@ethelbaptistchurch.org, and we'll ignore them with all the rest. If you enjoyed this episode, please give it a like, share it with your friends, and subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. Thank you to Ethel Baptist Church and its members for their generous support. Thank you, Gavin, for helping us out today. And again, thank you for listening. And until next time, remember the Great Commission: go into all the world, reach the lost with the gospel, and build disciples who can do the same. And until the next time, we're out.